Good morning, Clearbranch kids. This month, we're learning all about forgiveness. And you may have noticed that when you've been forgiven or when you forgive others, it can almost be like being given a do-over, a chance to make things right or to make them good again. And we're going to hear more about that in today's story. So at this point in God's big story, we are right in the thick of Jesus' ministry. And you've heard me say several times that everywhere Jesus went, crowds and crowds of people followed so that they could hear him and ask questions and just be near him. And this day was no different. As Jesus and his friends traveled through Jericho on their way to Jerusalem, the crowds were pressing in on all sides. And everyone was getting as close as they could to see and hear Jesus, except for one man who was stuck on the outside of the crowd. Now, this man, name was Zacchaeus. You may have heard of him, and he was the chief tax collector. So he was quite rich, but he really didn't have any friends at all. Now, Zacchaeus, like we said, had lived a life where he had done a great many of things wrong, including cheating probably his friends and possibly even his family. But he had heard about Jesus, and he wanted to see and hear him so badly. But Zacchaeus, even though he was quite rich, was also quite short, and he could not see over the crowd to get to Jesus. So he looked around that day, and he saw that there was a tree right on the side of the road that kind of was close enough that he could climb right up in that tree, which he did, and had a perfect bird's eye view as Jesus and his friends came walking through town. Now, as Zacchaeus stayed there, marveling at this man and his disciples that were walking through, I'm sure it was all he could do to not fall out of the tree when Jesus looked up and called him by name. And when Jesus called him by name, he could have taken the time to berate Zacchaeus for a lot of the wrong things he'd done, for the way he had cheated people in his own town and community. But instead, Jesus looked up and he said, "Zacchaeus," and he spoke to him kindly. And then he said, "You need to come on down and get ready because I'm going to come to your house today." Well, this was shocking, again, to all of the crowds because why would Jesus hang out with someone who had such a bad reputation as Zacchaeus, someone who had done so many wrong and bad things? And so as Jesus went on to Zacchaeus' house with his disciples, the crowds followed because they wanted to see what would happen. And by the time that they had gotten there and Zacchaeus and Jesus had talked just a little bit and spent some time together, Zacchaeus was already changed. He knew that if Jesus had enough love and grace and mercy in his heart to be friends with him, someone who had done so many things wrong, that he needed to change his life. And so he spoke up to Jesus in front of all those people, said, "I'm going to give away half of my belongings to the people who need them. And furthermore, anyone I've cheated, I'm going to pay them back 4 times over." To which I'm sure Jesus smiled as he said to Zacchaeus, "You're forgiven, and salvation has come to your house today." Now, when we forgive others, we're probably not forgiving them for cheating all of their friends and family, for doing the kind of things that Zacchaeus had done in his career. Maybe it's just because someone in our family hurt our feelings, or we felt like a friend slighted us at lunch. Maybe the things that we need forgiveness for are not that great. But when we forgive others, when others forgive us, just like Jesus forgave Zacchaeus that day, it can change everything. And that's our bottom line. Forgiveness can change everything.